Okie, welcome in on this Friday, the Maize and Blue Review, sharpening the edge for week number 9. Time flies, especially during the college football season. That has us right here now into the second half of the season fully. And we have Lucas Reimink. As always, I'm Dennis Fithian, and we are ready to pick some games. Lucas, what's going on? How'd you do last week?
I'm doing well personally. Went 3-3 last week, so just kind of pushing money around. Nothing hurt, but nothing gained either. Brings me to 24-20 on the season now, so a few games over 500 there. Hopefully, we'll get back to. I think the last 2 weeks I've been 500 exactly, so hopefully we get back on the right track, getting some positive wins on the board this week.
Yeah, sometimes 500 feels like a win, depending on what was happening with the earlier picks that you made. We pick a half dozen games each week, including the local teams: Michigan State, the Lions, and plus we have 3 locks of the week. And I, like Lucas, was 3-3 last week, and I'm just one game over 500. It's been that way for a while. I want to start moving this direction up towards big time positivity, not just one game over 500. And that's the task. It's better than being below 500. I can tell you that. And with that, we get to the Bunyan Trophy tomorrow. Michigan, the quarterback. Do you know who the quarterback is? I mean, I know you know all the inside scoop and everything that's going on with Michigan. Who's going to be the quarterback tomorrow?
Just from the rumors, reading the tea leaves, it sounds like Davis Warren might be the guy this week, which would be going back to obviously the guy who started the season. It's kind of an interesting move now that they've tried 3 different quarterbacks, going back to the guy he originally started with. But as for this game, I'm not entirely sure how he's going to play. He didn't look good earlier in the season. I'm going to take Michigan State plus the 4.5. Just don't have a lot of confidence in this Michigan team right now. The offense is what it is. It's week 9. At this point in the season, you can't really expect to be making these huge, gigantic gains throughout the week. I do think they could be smarter by using the pieces that they do have, but the pieces are just they are what they are. It's not going to change. None of the quarterback options to me are good ones for this season, at least. I still have concerns about the defense as well, particularly the secondary. Illinois also quietly ran for almost 200 yards on this defense last week, which is another concern that kind of just popped up out of nowhere. Michigan State coming off their best game of the year, beating Iowa last week. I think Michigan State's an improving team, and I think Michigan's just kind of stuck in neutral. I think I will definitely take that 4.5. I think there's a decent chance Sparty wins outright, unfortunately.
Yeah, I hate to say it. I think that you've nailed this. However, I am picking Michigan, and I picked them originally. I knew when that 7 came out, that seemed a little high, and it went all the way down to 3 at one point, and then back to 5, and then just here tonight, I see 4.5. I'm picking Michigan to win 19-16. I don't have great conviction or anything. I'm not putting the car in the house on this one. I will take Michigan State plus the 4.5 because that's what I have to do when I pick at 19-16. A little bonus pick for you. I like the under 39.5 in this one. Both teams with some decent field goal kickers, and I think it's going to come down to that. And interesting is an interesting word that you use when you've talked about the quarterbacks. I've heard it put a lot of different ways, but I'm with you. I'll take MSU plus the 4.5 and hold my nose while I'm doing it. All right. That gets us to, since these 2 teams are both playing each other when we're picking it right in the same window, we get to the Lions, who are a big fat double-digit favorite. And I've gone back and forth on this one, making a case for both teams. The Titans, statistically, you look at it, they've got a pretty good defense. They got Snead out there, who's an excellent corner, can lock you down and everything else. But I kept coming back to the Lions and what they did to Dallas and how they played against Minnesota. They've got the most explosive offense in the NFL, and they're not looking to just win. They're looking to just roll. And being at home, I think they are going to roll, and so I'm going to have to lay the 11 points. I'm taking the Lions.
Yeah, I waffled on this one too, just the same as you, just as you're talking about there, kind of back and forth over this week. Had it in my notes, typed in both different ways at different points this week. But where I'm ultimately landing, here we are, as it's jumped up to 11, 11 and a half in some places. I will take the Titans. It's a little bit just too big of a number for me in an NFL game. Obviously, in the NFL, the talent is much more even than it is in college football. So anytime you see something in the double digits, that's a big spread for an NFL game. I'm not doubting the Lions team in any way. I think they win this game rather easily, but I think it'll be more of a 27-17 type win. So I'll take the Titans there plus that 11 or 11 and a half.
Titans remind me a little bit of Michigan. The quarterback here. I guess they're only playing 2 quarterbacks. Michigan's playing 3, but unsettle that quarterback. They actually, they don't have Levis, and so they go to Rudolph, and people are like, "Oh, this is the better choice." They don't know. They don't know what's going on there, and they can't run the ball. But good, all right, you take the 11 points. All right, so now we each take 3 best bets of the week and deliver them for you. I'm going to go to you with your best bet number 1 on the board this week.
My first one, I'm going down to Central Florida at home, taking on undefeated BYU. I'm going to take UCF minus that 2.5. UCF made a quarterback change this past week. They started the season with KJ Jefferson, formerly of Arkansas, switched to Ja'Cory Brown, formerly of Miami. Ja'Cory Brown's just more of a fit. He's a very dynamic runner, not the greatest passer in the world, but he's a very dynamic runner. It's just a better fit for what Gus Malzahn wants to do on offense. If you remember back to those Auburn teams, Gus Malzahn does really well with like the Cam Newton types, the Nick Marshall types back in 2013. They rode him to the title game. Pretty much just a running back there playing quarterback. That's really what he wants to do on offense. BYU on the other side, long road trip here, playing in Central Florida. I think BYU is good, but not undefeated good. I think UCF gets it done here. I have them winning 28-21, so I'll take them minus that 2.5 there for sure.
I had that pick on my board. Actually, I'll reveal, I think I had almost every pick on the board this week, and then I'm looking at both sides, but I had Central Florida as well in that one, so I like the selection. My best bet number 1 is going to it's not Wisconsin. Minnesota is playing they're playing Maryland. I have it down there at Wisconsin. And Maryland's not very good. The Gophers aren't half bad, and the Terps gave up 37 points to Northwestern at home. I know you search through the schedule, you can say, hey, a couple of weeks ago, Minnesota got killed at home against Iowa. I know that. You look, though, since then, they've played pretty well. And I know the Terps beat USC, which is something on their side. But this Maryland team on the road to Minnesota, this line, I liked it so much at the beginning of the week, and I had it locked in there at 4. I think everybody else is jumping on the Gophers as well because it's up to 5.5. I'll take Minnesota minus 5.5, best bet number 1. Back to you for best bet number 2.
My best bet number 2, it's a little bit of a stinky pick here, under 43.5 in the Kentucky-Auburn game. It's kind of the same logic I used last week in the Louisville-Miami over. That one hit rather easily. It's just looking at the 2 best offenses of the 2 best units on the field at all points in this game will be the defenses. Auburn hasn't done much of anything on offense. Peyton Thorne at quarterback. They've gone back and forth with a couple different guys there. None of them have really solidified themselves. Kentucky on the other side, they have Brock Vandagriff, formerly of Georgia. He hasn't really panned out for them either in the transfer portal. But on the other side of the ball for both teams, both defenses are good. The biggest concern here, honestly, in this under 43.5 here for me is that there's a special teams or defensive touchdown that could kind of push this over. Just because both offenses are so bad, it might lead to a defensive or special teams touchdown or big play and some sort of that. But I really just do not like either of these offenses. I think both defenses here are good. I would gladly take that under 43.5 here. I have this as more of a 20-17 type ball game. So give me that under 43.5 there.
Second week in a row, you're including Auburn in one of your plays, if I remember correctly. All right, my best bet number 2. I'm going to Vandy again. If Vandy was another team, people would be all over them. Well, they beat Alabama. They bring Texas in this week. Vandy is at home. They run this triple option, and they're getting 18. And in Alabama's folks, their defense is just not that good. And Vandy's got a pretty, they are pretty good. I wouldn't be surprised to see Vandy. When I looked at this before I saw the line, I made it myself. I said, this one's probably going to be around 10.5. And then I see that it was 18.5. It's come down a half point. I'm all over Vandy here. Give me the 18 points. I'm riding Vandy one more time. They've been good to me this year, and they're a pretty good team. It's just that you keep thinking that they're going to turn into a pumpkin because they're Vandy. I don't think so against the Horns. You don't even know who the quarterback's going to be. There a couple of weeks ago, Quinn Ewers is going to be the Heisman Trophy winner and a top 10 pick. Now he's going to get benched for Arch Manning. A little bit wild there for Texas. That gets us to our final pick, and I'm going right back to you for best bet number 3 on the week, Lucas Reimink.
Another one a little bit off the beaten path this week for me this week. Just didn't like any of the big game numbers. I got SMU minus 11.5 at Duke. I have SMU power rated as a top 15 in the country, which might surprise some people. I think they're one of the best teams in the ACC, probably the third best team behind Clemson, Miami. I think they're going on the road to Duke here. So you might look at it like, 11.5 on the road. But I still like this. Both teams are 6-1. The 11.5 point spread might be a little surprising if you're just looking at the records. I just think SMU is in a much different class than this Duke team is. Malik Murphy at quarterback there for Duke. He's been kind of fine, but not the most dynamic offense in the world. Manny Diaz has them boys playing hard. I just think they're going to be outmatched here. SMU's got an explosive offense as well. I think SMU is going to go on the road, win this easily. I have this at 34-20. So gladly take that 11.5 here. I think they win by 2 scores.
I like the pick, and Duke fans don't care. They're getting ready for basketball season. They've got this generational freshman coming in, so they're not even looking at this. They're not even paying attention to this game. All right, we'll give you all of those picks for Lucas for those of you listening, and I know a lot of you do on the podcast. Let me give you my best bet number 3, and Lucas said he was scared away from the big games. I'm going with the biggest game on the menu here. And I saw, and I was back and forth a little bit on there because I like Nussmeier at quarterback. I'm talking about the LSU Texas A&M game. And finally, I looked. I like the Duke former coach or the former Texas A&M defensive coordinator. I think it's Elko, who's the head coach there at Texas A&M. Both teams undefeated in the SEC, but being at home. And that defense that A&M has, I think that is going to be the difference. That is why I'm taking Texas A&M. In addition, after I made that selection this week, the line was kind of going back and forth. I think you have to lay one now. I'm not afraid to do that with the Aggies, but I saw Paul Feinbaum. He was so geared up that he thinks LSU is going to win the game. That made me like it even more, although I didn't like who's the guy on ESPN, Joe or something. I like that guy, but he was on LSU as well. But I'm going the other way against those guys. Give me Texas A&M over LSU, and I'll lay the point in that one. So if you're scoring at home or wanting to write these down, you've got Lucas taking Central Florida, laying 2.5 against undefeated BYU. Lucas also has the under 43.5 in the Kentucky Auburn game. And then SMU minus 11.5. And I've got Minnesota minus 5.5, Vandy plus 18. I'm taking Texas A&M against Paul Feinbaum. I'll take the Aggies -1 at home. I could wish that Michigan and Michigan State were not opposite of this game. I could even see myself putting this one on the big screen for a while if things aren't going well for the Wolverines. And hopefully that doesn't happen. So they're the picks. Good luck, Lucas. Any final thoughts?
Only one disagreement, one fight this week over the Lions game. So hopefully we're each stacking a bunch of wins this week, and we'll see how it goes. Get above that 500 mark, separate ourselves a little bit from that. So yeah, looking forward to the games. Hopefully Michigan wins this weekend. Be watching the game with a bunch of Sparty fans. So that would be tragic if they lost that one. So really rooting for them, especially hard this week.
That's always a tough one when you're watching with Spartans. All right, enjoy the game, enjoy the weekend, and we'll talk with you next week. There he is, Lucas Reimink. Thanks, everyone, for watching.